Hello, everyone. This is John Hansmeyer, and this is Food, Flicks, and Fun. Today, I just got out tonight at 9 o'clock at Premier Theaters. I just got out of the movie Nefarious, and what this is about this guy who is facing the death penalty, and there's this interviewer who's coming there to decide whether he's going to get the death penalty or not. And then if he's insane, he doesn't get the death penalty. But if he is sane, he is going to get the death penalty. Now, I'm not going to spoil the end of the movie, but what I really loved about this movie was its conviction, its passion, its rawness, and it's directed by the makers of God's Not Dead. And I'm going to be blunt, I hated that movie. I hated it very much. I'm not going to get into that. But what I really loved about this movie was its detail. And I thought the actor who played the guy who was on death row was absolutely phenomenal. He had great passion. His twitchiness really did come across as a demon. And the interviewer also played a really good, cool, collected person, kind of like a reporter or something. And this guy was just absolutely phenomenal as an actor. And both acting jobs did really good. But the problem I had with the movie was the lack of promotion. Like, I heard nothing about this movie. When you heard God's Not Dead, it was all over the place. It was all over the news. And it was such a phenomenal movie about conviction, faith, love, and so many demonic spirits that can happen in a movie that no one really ever talks about. And it was just so raw and so just jarring how it can be. As Christians, we don't talk about the enemy. We don't talk about spiritual forces. And it's so important to not gloss over these issues as Christians. And I truly do believe this. It really was meant for people who are non-believers. And it kept the atheist not as an enemy, but as simply someone who listens. And that's the issue with most Christian movies, is they treat the atheist as the villain. And that is not the case. Is there a lot of atheists that are bad people? Of course. But there's also a lot of bad people who are Christians too. And it was very neutral. It really made the person who is an atheist learn about demonic possession. And the movie was not preachy because it was supposed to share faith in the shape of a demon. And it was just such a phenomenal movie of faith, and how sometimes we are skeptical as Christians and as atheists and as atheists. But what matters is, as Christians, we have to be so honed in when it comes to knowing what's evil and what's not. And it is true. One part of the movie, the guy said there's no such thing as spiritual demons or anything like that, because we are getting rid of racism. We're getting rid of these social causes. Illiteracy is at an all-time high, and we're making better of this world. But the demon responded saying, how hilarious is it that you say we're doing all these good things, but it is man-centered? And he said, like, a lot of the reading levels are a sixth grade level. And it's so true that we're focusing on what we want, but nothing on the spiritual level. And there's another scene regarding around abortion, and that was a really powerful scene about how important it is with life. And many times, as I don't want to get too preachy, but back to the movie. This movie has to be, it's either a tie between this or the movie Silence. Those two movies are probably the greatest Christian movies I've ever seen. And this movie was very well shot, and what made this movie extra tense was there was hardly any music. And when the music happened, it was so appropriate, and it was very similar to the movie No Country for Old Men. And it's so important to have tension in a movie. And so many times when they blare out music, it's inappropriate, or what sometimes no music makes the movie even more intense. And I just really loved the detail of how important it is as Christians to simply. Oh, sorry. What I really loved about it, what the no lack of music is, it really had lots of great tension, and it really made good detail within the movie. And I really loved this movie so much. I would probably give this movie probably a 4 out of 5 stars. The reason why I'm only taking 1 star off was I maybe possibly have this movie a little longer. And another thing, that reason why I wish the movie was a little longer, was exploring more about Edward's side. It was all speaking of throughout the demon, but I would have liked to have gotten to get to know Edward as a character. But what I loved about this movie was the cinematography was really good, and the prison was very chilling. It was very dark, and it had a lot of like chipped wood all over the place, and that's really creepy. And it showed the horror of prison, and it shows that his prison's not a great place, and it's a horrible place. And the end of the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but at the very end of the movie, the interviewer also gets possessed, and he did some crazy things. And in the middle of the movie, the interviewer just didn't believe that this guy was possessed, and so he's just like, okay, fine, tell me, enter me. And at the very end of the movie, the guy was on, at the very end of the movie, spoilers up next. At the very end of the movie, the guy ends up being sane and executed. And the interviewer remembers his agreement. And then the guy who was getting executed, Edward, he said something like to the guy, and then he remembers his oath that he made to enter him, and then he entered him, and then he has this gun in his hand. He just tries to like move around, and he tries to kill someone, but he pulls a trigger, clicks, and it didn't happen. And it just shows you the power of evil spirits as Christians. And as Christians, it is so important to simply pray away evil spirits. To simply say, no, devil be gone. Because there are times with anxiety or other things that there are evil spirits involved when it comes to this stuff. And to simply pray away is a good thing, but just simply shout and make oaths of scripture to saying you're no longer here is also extremely important too, because we have the conviction of Christ. And the movie Nefarious was just absolutely phenomenal. The acting was great. And the biggest thing I took takeaway out of this movie is this. You simply cannot linger around and just be loosey-goosey as a Christian. You must be on your guard at all times. At all times. And that's my thoughts on this movie. It was absolutely phenomenal. See it. Remember, it's rated R. So you got to be very careful too. Read it on Parents Guide and IMDb. Or read Common Sense Media. But overall, fantastic movie. And I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks.